Makes sense last thing.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Do It Center is presenting to you Do It with Domus Doors and Windows, and today we'll be presenting you with our latest line of products added to the Do It Center portfolio. Thank you for joining us both virtually and in person at our Do It Center conference facilities. We thank you for joining us today. Today we will have with us Terrence Ott, who is the CEO of Domus, and Do It Center recently signed on with Domus to present to you Doors and Windows line. It's the line of hurricane-rated windows, which we already have in stock. And today we'll be sharing with you the features and benefits of having these windows. At Do It Center, we continuously pride ourselves on presenting to our customers value added. And we do believe that introducing this line of windows to our portfolio will add value to our contractors and to the end users. Terrence will be presenting to us on our window line, and Lincoln, you can confirm if he's ready.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will send it over to Terrence, who will present to us on our Domus windows and doors line.
Well, thank you very much, Yves. So what I'd like to do is to go over a number of things about the products. First of all, looking at hurricane resistance, and let me just turn my camera on here. Yeah, there. Yeah, so I guess we don't have to tell everyone in Dominica about hurricanes after Hurricane Irma, but the economics of hurricane-resistant products are that really none of the other Caricom window and door manufacturers can match our standards for impact or wind load. And also no other Caricom manufacturer can provide adequate protection from the most intense hurricanes. And I'll get into that a little bit later as to what the standards are, but very often people will think that hurricane shutters are going to protect them, whereas most cases they will not protect against any of the very strongest hurricanes, as occurred with Hurricane Maria. Sorry, I mentioned Irma before, but it was Maria that hit Dominica. So I guess the real thing to do in terms of looking at the economics is to look at the cost of prevention and also the cost of a total deterioration, or at least a lot of damage to your home or other office building. And it's, as you'll see, we have affordable products that everyone can afford, and they do a lot to provide the ultimate in protection. Oops. So very often you'll hear impact. Impact is meant to signify, I guess, that they are resistant to wind load, pardon me, to impacts from windborne debris. But most of the impact laminate that's out there has not been tested. It's just a name. And so, as you can see, not all laminate glass that is called impact is the same.
Gone right through. Yeah, that makes sense last thing again.
All right, that's it.
That's too last you go through. No. I get my sister to give us
Waste of time.
No. That is not having glass. Something wrong with it. Okay. This is for you. This is your glass. We're going to test it. This is the treats. How you feeling? You feeling good? We will find out. The thing break right through. God. Look at that. The thing going right through, man. Stop. Laminate glass. We're going to try to hit this and see what happens. But it's going to break. It's gone straight through, look, it's gone through already. 3 hits and it's gone through. This is no good, man. That's gone through. It mash up. That's the end of that, it mash up. This is your glass. Test your glass. How you feel? It must take 10 shots of this hammer to pass. Nigel, you ready? Let's go. 1, 2, 3. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Nigel, you pass.
So I guess that's a demonstration of strength, but we also did a demonstration right in Dominica with even bigger hammers than that one. So this was a video of something we did about a year ago in Dominica in one of the presentations we made there. Okay, let's go.
Yeah. Hit it now?
Yeah.
You have to tell me to hit it, I can hit it.
Yeah, hit it. What? Can't do any better than that? Okay.
Yes, I can do better than that.
Hit it. Okay.
Eh?
Hit it. Yeah.
Use the same hammer or use the
Same
other
hammer,
one?
but
Same
really
hammer.
hit it. Okay, hit it again. Okay, whoops. Okay, well, let's try a bigger hammer. Here, is this a bigger one? Okay, so have a go with that one then. Hit it hard. Okay. Okay, now we'll try the big one now. No, hit it. Okay, hit it. Little one more up here. Maybe one more. Okay, well, I think it should work. Yeah, so that's always fun. And we've tried 10-pound sledgehammers with big beefy guys, and it does the same thing. So why do you need strong impact glass? Well, there are 2 reasons that windows and doors fail in hurricanes. First of all, you've got airborne debris, stuff flying around. It breaks the glass in 1 or more windows. If you have rubber gaskets, then also they can pop out. So, and the second thing is that wind force, especially with Hurricane Maria, strong hurricanes like Maria, Irma, and Dorian that hit the Bahamas in 2019, then you'll find that the wind force becomes the more predominant item because it's extremely strong up in this strong hurricane. So you can have structural failure. You may not have it installed properly, so the fasteners are either too infrequent or they're too short and they bend and they pull out. Or as in the case of one of the properties, a resort property in Dominica, they use steel fasteners, which actually were drilled into the concrete openings. Then concrete dust mixed with moisture between the 2 sides of the window totally ate the screws, so that all that was left was the head of the screw. So when a hurricane comes along, it pops out very, very quickly. So in strong hurricanes, the majority of hurricane shutters fail. The hurricane shutters are typically only rated to 140 miles an hour, whereas with Maria, it was 165 miles an hour. And if you looked at Irma, which could well happen again, then the stress on the hurricane shutters is 70% higher than what they're rated to take. Now, we found this in, not so much in Dominica, but in St. Martin, where people use hurricane shutters all over the place. We had done a project with our high impact, highly rated hurricane resistant units in a building. And the owner decided he was going to protect the glass. So he put hurricane shutters on about half of the building. He ran out of time and money. And then when Irma hit, he could do nothing. We came back the next day after the hurricane, and sure enough, the windows that had no hurricane shutters were cracked. At least half of them, or more than half of them, were cracked, but there were no failures. Then when you looked at the windows that had the hurricane shutters were gone, and the glass was gone too. The hurricane shutter actually acted as a battering ram, smashed out the glass on every single one of those windows. The hurricane shutters blew away, and the building failed due to hurricane shutters. So the wind load can deflect the shutters sufficiently to pull them out of the rails, but if they don't, they can still act as a battering ram. And of course, there are times too where they haven't been properly installed, just like you can have problems installing windows as well. So actually, in the strongest of hurricanes, hurricane shutters are more a liability than an asset. As long as you can guarantee it's a Cat 1 or Cat 2, go for your hurricane shutters. But Maria, Irma, and Dorian all would have exceeded them, and most hurricane shutters did in fact fail. Probably 90% of hurricane shutters in St. Martin did fail. So what causes the problem? So this picture shows a large window that failed. And what happens then is the wind pressure comes in, pressurizes the building, and then lifts the roof off. Now, on 1,000 square foot roof, if you lose a window and door, you could have up to 30 tons of lift on the roof. And what most people don't realize is that the leading cost of cause of roof failure is that a single window or door has failed. I've heard this, the old wives' tale of running around to the other side of the building. If you lose a window on one side, open it up on the other and let the pressure out. Well, that's fine if everything isn't running around and you can actually get there in time. But typically that wind force can build up in 30 seconds or a little more and take the roof off. So if you lose a window and door, you are going to lose the roof, basically, regardless of how well you fasten it. With that amount of pressure on the roof, it's going to go. So keep in mind, we need the windows and doors, pardon me, that will stand up to those two things. Impact, which could smash out the glass, and we've seen what happens when you've got very weak glass in the previous videos. And the other thing is going to be wind load, which can cause the failure itself. So what three things do you need for a hurricane-resistant window and door? Firstly, the frames, the mullions, and the sashes, and the other structural elements need to be strong enough to stand up to the highest wind speeds. Now, in the highest of hurricanes, you can get up to almost 100 pounds per square foot. Now, that's twice the load that exists on the floor that you're standing on. So it needs to be twice as strong as your floor in order to stand up to the hurricane. The second thing is the glazing needs to be capable of surviving multiple wind-borne missile impacts. So that requires very strong laminate glass, not the cheap, thin stuff that you've seen before. And it needs to be capable of absorbing the kinetic energy of wind-borne debris. And the last thing is that the glazing has to be glued into the frames in order to prevent them from popping out or pulling out. So if you have laminate glass and it gets hit, then it no longer has much structural strength. It then relies on its on tension, on the elasticity of the laminate. But if the whole glass pops out, then it's not going to do its job. So those are the three basics. And I guess a fourth as well is that it's got to be properly installed, particularly to stand up to wind load. First of all, you must make sure that you have enough fasteners all around the perimeter of the unit at sufficient intervals to prevent sufficient to transfer the wind load from the window onto the frame. Now we require no more than 4 inches from each corner and no more than 16 inches between the various screws that are around the perimeter. And those fasteners need to be able to retain the strength for the life of ownership. I mentioned before the problem of using regular steel screws. Within 2 to 5 years, they can totally be eroded to the point where the window is just sitting in there with whatever caulking strength is left. So we've determined that you require high-grade stainless steel that is going to be impervious to salt air and humidity and so on. And 100 years from now, it will be just as strong as it is today. The other thing is the fasteners need to be sufficiently long so they don't pull out under wind load or impact. We use 3-inch long screws. And we want to have only a 1/4-inch hole drilled into the masonry. And we want at least 1 inch of those screws in the hole that you've drilled. So when you get pressure on the side, it's going to bridge against the side of the opening. If you use a short screw, they will bend and pull right out. The other thing too is you need 100% silicone caulking. Now, Do It Center is one of the only centers that hardwares around that I've seen that actually has 100% silicone caulking. And so make sure you don't go for the cheap stuff, because within a couple of years it dries out. You may save yourself a couple of dollars per window or door and then pay for it over and over again. You pay now or you pay later. So we have the only wind load testing facility in CARICOM. And the reason we can talk about the ability to stand up to wind load is we actually test the units. I have not seen another product manufactured in CARICOM that has been tested. And if I was to take it and put it into our test lab, I have no doubt that 99% of them would fail. So what we do to test it, we put a test unit against the test wall, and then we apply suction on one side to create a differential pressure. And from there, we can simulate up to 250 mile/hour winds. And keep in mind that the strongest ever hurricanes were Dorian and Allen, and they were 190 miles an hour. So, that we can simulate even the worst of hurricanes and then go beyond that. Now, in terms of quantifying hurricane resistance, we can look at impact. You remember that windborne debris can knock out the windows as well as wind load. If we're looking at impact standards, we have 2 different products. One is the economical hurricane product, which it has to stand up to 3 blows of an ASTM-E 1996 missile C, which is a 4-foot-long 2x4 fired from a cannon at 40 feet per second. Now, these are the products that actually Do It Center is stocking, and you can walk away with those and get that kind of protection. So this will show you the kind of blows that this particular unit will take from this missile. Now, this is tested in a US laboratory before we had our own, and there are 3 all on the operating sash. Now you can see this window is pretty banged up, but in fact, there is no damage done to the window other than the glass. So if you do happen to take a missile strike in a hurricane, you can simply replace the glass after. But in the meantime, the wind and the debris stays on the outside, and rather than letting it in and pressurizing the house and blowing off the roof, as happened to the vast majority of properties that I saw in in Dominica after Maria. Now there's a higher impact standard that we have. This one is the same as Miami-Dade. What we found from Hurricane Irma in St. Martin, which was even stronger than Maria, was that in most cases, we had both the high impact and the economical hurricane products installed. And we found very little difference between the two products in terms of its missile capability. So this one, if you do want the ultimate, which is what you saw with the sledgehammer, then it has to withstand 3 blows of an ASTM-E 1996 missile D, which is 8 feet long, 2x4, and it's fired at a higher speed. Now, this is the same as Miami-Dade standard. And Miami-Dade, I think, set a standard which is very expensive. That laminate is the most expensive part of the window. And so if you have to go to this level, it can increase the cost quite dramatically. Now, in Hurricane Andrew in Miami, when it hit, they had all these clay and concrete roof tiles sitting on the roof, held down only by gravity, with a single nail holding them down. Well, these things started raining around the neighborhoods, and you've got a heavy-duty thing with a sharp edge, and in order to stop that kind of stuff, you're going to need this kind of laminate. But we don't use those very often in the Caribbean, and what we found is from St. Martin as I said, there's very little difference between the two. So here's the test that determines whether this meets it or not. Now in this one, you can see how the laminate absorbs the impact. And it is by stretching. The laminate needs to be strong enough both to resist the missile going through it. And the second thing, as it stretches, it needs to be capable of absorbing energy. And what's interesting is the bigger the window, the more impact it will take because the laminate has longer to stretch, which is counterintuitive. Now, I know that in Maria, there was quite a lot of flooding. And as it turns out, our hurricane-resistant doors will also stop flooding. So here's a test that we did recently. So I don't know if you could notice that, but that was 54 inches of water, of hydraulic pressure. And you'll also notice how well it seals. That keeps rain out, and it also keeps water and of course hurricanes as well. So if you've got a hurricane resistant window, you also have one that provides excellent security as well. Because the security requirements are very similar to hurricane impact requirements. The glazing has to be strong enough to survive multiple blows. So if you have somebody come up with a hammer or a bat or something and takes a whack at it, you want to make sure that it's going to stand up to it. In most cases, the thin laminate glass will not do so. Again, the glazing needs to be secured to the frames in order to prevent it being ripped out. If you've got rubber gasketed windows, they have no security resistance or hurricane resistance. All you need to do is crack the glass and they will pop right out. So the third thing, of course, is that the window door frames and the mullions and everything need to be strong enough to withstand intrusion attacks as well. Because if somebody can run into the window or door and knock it out, then you've got the same issues as you could have in a hurricane with it being blown out. So here's an economical hurricane impact window security demonstration. So you'll see that it does provide excellent security.
What's the problem, ma'am? Oh, there's some guy been checking the place out.
So you notice with tempered glass, which is stronger than regular glass until it's hit, and one sharp blow and the whole thing explodes and drops away. It's actually the preferred glass for thieves because they can get in seconds and they won't get cut or anything. Whoops, I messed up here. Whoops, production problem. Well, my apologies. I hit that at the wrong time, I guess. So. So sorry about that.
What's the problem, ma'am? Oh, there's some guy been...
So as you can see, as in the case of hurricanes, you're going to end up with cracked glass, but better that than having someone intrude. So I'd like to now turn attention to the product range. Mentioned that we have the economical hurricane resistant products, which deliver excellent hurricane resistance and security. And we also have the high impact that deliver the ultimate. Now, in addition to those two ranges of hurricane and security resistance, we also have very highly aesthetic products. First of all, building exteriors are generally sparse, except for windows and doors, but attractive windows and doors can beautify buildings and express your taste. One thing in Canada, we did some studies with focus groups, and we found that color is a matter of taste, but really when you choose darker colors over a long period of time, it depresses people because that kind of drags everything down. And I think that's one of the reasons that 80 to 90% of all windows in Europe and North America are white. And you'll find some other countries that, like Haiti, for instance, you go there, they're all black or red. So it's a matter of taste. But if you look at most high-end homes in the world, and use Barbados as an example, they use white frames for almost regardless of material. So they paint them, if they're wood, they paint them white, and whatever they use, it's white. So we have developed a wide range of modern, attractive products that say class anywhere in the world. We have a full array of windows. We've got sash windows that are, those are the ones that slide up and down, or they call them single hung or double hung windows. We also have sliders that go from side to side. We have awnings, which are top hung. They'll keep the rain out. Very often people will put them small units at the top so that they allow air to pass through, but are too small for anyone to crawl in or worry about security. Then we have casement, which provides the ultimate amount of air movement because the entire opening moves. It's like a door, the whole thing opens. We also have picture windows. We have swing doors, which you've seen now, the flood test with one. We have large sliding patio doors as well. And we also have a range of commercial units, both curtain walls and storefronts and so on. And again, all of those would come both with security and hurricane resistance. Now, here's some examples of some units, and I would like to turn over the floor to Winifred. Winifred, are you there? If you are, enable your mic.
Okay, so now you're going to view some of the hurricane resistant windows that we have presently in Dominica. This is one of the homes up in the northern area. This is the style that the customer chose, and it's hurricane rated. All these are hurricane rated. Next picture, Terry. This is also a door. It's 3 pocket door. So if you notice the design, the width of it and the height, that was the customer wanted as well. Next one. This, if you notice the top, the customer loves a lot of air. So he's not a Dominican. He's a Dominican, but he doesn't live here. So he wants the air wind flow through his home. So he designed it in the way that he could have the wind flow. So we have an awning at the top and the regular single hung at the bottom. And on your left is the customer design. That's his design. That's the way he wanted his home, his window to look. So these 2 fixes on the right, the pieces on the left and on the right at the top, these are fixed pieces. And he has the awning at the top, and in the middle, he has the French style. On the sides, he wanted it plain, and the bottom is fixed as well. And this is another sample of the awning at the top and the sash at the bottom. So this is a door, frosted at the top, and you know you want the panel at the bottom, you can get that also. And it's just this is just a sample of one of the locks that we carry here.
Okay, and here are some of the other islands. We actually have been delivering windows for the last 15 years to all of the Eastern Caribbean islands. So these would be at other islands. You can see the awnings, in this case, 12 awnings and a sliding patio door. And in the next one, you can see a casement opening to the side with a couple of awnings on the top. And here's a mix and match of swing doors, single and double swing doors, awnings and casements and so on. So you'll see that these are all sort of custom configurations. This particular one is a 6-panel pocket door. So and we actually have interior pocket doors as well, which can slide out of the way and leave the entire opening open. So the all of those you'll notice are custom configurations. They're also custom sized, and they're also custom in terms of glass. So the glazing that you can have various colors: clear, blue-green tint, which is a lovely one if you're anywhere near the water, a gray tint, which is very dignified, a bronze tint, which works very well with the yellows and browns in a house. And then we can also have specialty glass. Winifred made reference to frosted. Frosted is going to allow you to have an opaque view. So if it goes into a bathroom, no one can see in, or if it's on a front door, people cannot see through the frosted. It just it lets the light in, but keeps the retains the privacy. We also have reeded glass, which is a very dignified, classy look. Again, it causes aberration, so you can't really see through it, but very classy for front doors. And the last is solar E. Now, solar E will cut the solar heat gain down from the sun almost in half. And so since 90% of all of the heat pickup in a house comes from the sun's rays, you can actually cut the heat gain in half. And we've had many customers who actually buy a smaller air conditioning unit because they don't need as much air conditioning capacity. And of course, it can reduce the energy cost dramatically as well, sometimes up to 30%. It's a very small additional cost and typically pays for itself in a few months. So in terms of the product customization, we can, since we laminate glass, we can take two different kinds of glass, like a blue-green and a solar E, or any other combinations you might want. And in fact, by laminating and putting the two glasses together, there's actually over 100 different glazing options that are available. The other thing too is that all laminate glass for both of the hurricane-resistant products have an STC 35 sound reduction. So if you happen to be in a noisy street or your bedroom, you're hearing dogs barking at night or so on, if you've used the laminate glass, it has the additional feature of greatly attenuating the sound. And as I mentioned before, the solar heat cuts solar heat gain down dramatically. So here's a demonstration of the soundproofing that you get from any of the hurricane-resistant products. So it's, we also do sound studios for TV stations, radio stations, and so on, but that's an extra level. But still, you're going to cut out most of the sound with any of the laminate products. Now, I mentioned customization. You can either buy the products that are in the store, or with Winifred's help, you can also order custom sizes for all products that cost no additional amount. So if you're doing a renovation, rather than having to break out the openings, if the sizes are not exactly what you want, then you can order replacements for them right down to within a few millimeters. And in terms of configurations, you saw that one with the shaped units in the corner and all the different types of window. We have 1,000 configurations of the windows and doors in our database. But if you come up with something else, we also can design other custom things, and again, no additional cost. We also have shaped windows, arches, round, triangular, and so on. And you'll see some of these. This one is a huge house and very, very dramatic windows. Took a crane to get them up there, but he was very, very happy with his customization. Now, in this particular case, this architect and homeowner wanted to be able to walk out the corner of the house. So we designed a corner locking system so that you can open the doors in one direction. You can move them this way and then unlock it and move these in this way. And then the total corner is opening. Of course, this was cantilevered on the top. This is another high-end development where they have these almost tower-like lookouts over the water. The view is over the water. And it's absolutely gorgeous to go in these things and get a 270-degree view. Again, all of those units were custom sized and also custom angles and so on and so forth. I mentioned we do shapes. I mean, if you're looking at this mountain out the window, This would look quite different if it was a square window. All you'd see is the greenery, but with the shape on there, you actually see the terrain around it. So I thought that was a very artistic use of that of shaped windows. Here we have some unique triangles again, and those providing accent to a face of a house. So in many cases, your windows and doors are really one of the only ways to express aesthetics. And we are unique in the ability to do that kind of range of stuff, especially customized. So why use high quality PVC? Well, first of all, there's cleaner lines and it looks much classier than steel and aluminum. If you look at a house with the PVC windows, well, it depends on the design of the windows, because you can get very inexpensive UPVC as well. It hasn't been properly stabilized, and but if you get the high quality stuff, then you'll find that it's inert. There's no corrosion, even in high salt concentrations. There's no maintenance. There's a 20-year guarantee to them, but they should last 100 years. There's no painting. They don't deteriorate. Well, the corners are welded. One thing with aluminum windows, the corners are a mechanical connection, and they're actually, it's very easy to make. If you can make an aluminum window if you have a saw and a screwdriver, but the sealing in the corners tends to break down, and if they're rubber gaskets, those tend to harden up and deteriorate over time and need to be replaced. So with the chambers that we have, we can easily reinforce them, which is why we can get up to the 200 miles per hour resistance, and also stand up for security. Another thing too is that UPVC absorbs shock without splitting or chipping. If you hit an aluminum window and break the finish on it, there's no way to repair it. Whereas with the PVC, it tends to absorb energy in a similar way to what the laminate does. And of course, they have excellent thermal performance. Metals tend to conduct heat very, very easily, and PVC does not. So in terms of maintenance, a lot of people only look at the front end cost, and they don't think of the implications down the road. They don't think of what would happen if the window broke in a hurricane and destroyed the house. They also don't think about maintenance. Now, there's some people around who really enjoy doing the maintenance. I'm not one of them. If you use wood, well, it's quite inexpensive, but over time it's going to need painting, it rots and so on. And although it's very nice to have an inexpensive window to start with, when you have to start doing maintenance in a few years, it's not much fun. Steel, I don't know if there's many used in Dominica anymore. We certainly have a lot of them in Trinidad, and they look tacky and dated, and they rust, require constant maintenance, and they conduct heat again. Aluminum, the exposed surfaces can oxidize, particularly if you're in a high salt content air place, and they have very poor thermal performance. I've mentioned rubber gaskets. Those gaskets crack, they leak, and they provide no security. And if you're using inferior UPVC, then it turns yellow and becomes unsightly, and also chalks and is weakened. I remember when we first started selling into Dominica a number of years ago, people said, oh, well, PVC turns yellow. And we were kind of shocked, because the units we have are the highest quality PVC made in the world from a German company and a Canadian one. And they are guaranteed for 20 years not to turn yellow or darken or anything. But again, you sometimes get what you pay for. So I mentioned we have a 20-year guarantee that they won't yellow, they won't weaken, rot, chip, peel, blister, darken, or otherwise deteriorate for 20 years. So if at the end of 20 years they're still looking good, you're in pretty good shape. Probably they'll be good for another 20 years or 60 years. All of our hardware is guaranteed for 5 years. Now that's subject to cleaning. Obviously, if you're on the coast and you've got salt built up and you do nothing to get the salt off on occasion, then you're going to have problems with it. And the other thing too that sometimes happens on a casement and awning window, people leave it locked and then try to open it. And the locks are very, very strong for hurricane resistance, and you can break the hardware if you work at it. And our laminate glass is also warranted for a 5-year period. Now, choosing windows, windows and doors may not be quite as simple as one might think. First of all, if you've got a lot of choice, then that's good and it's bad. It's bad because you want to make sure you make the right choices. So that's where it's important for someone to be able to provide advice. Winifred, for instance, has been doing this for a long time. She knows what the different windows will do, the positives and negatives of each one. For instance, awning windows will keep the rain out, but they don't allow as much air movement as a casement window, et cetera, et cetera. And some windows are going to be more expensive than the others. So that's very, very important to get the right recommendation. Also, installation, I mentioned, is very, very important. Now, if we have contractors who want to use our products, then we will provide training for any of the contractors. Or we do have a contractor in Dominica who is capable of installing to our standards, been trained and has the knowledge and so on. So either way, we want to make sure that they're properly installed, both that doesn't affect the operation and break, maybe breaks the hardware over time or something. And the other thing too is that you want to make sure having a hurricane resistant product that it's properly installed and not going to fail. So we do have a technical support team. We very often will have people calling from all around the Caribbean on a video call, or we can also do online training with Zoom similar to this one. But the other thing too is that the Do It Center can provide a lot of support as well. So the Do It Center now with these products can deliver products that have style and aesthetics, that provide hurricane protection and security, that are energy efficient, that have soundproofing, and also have the lowest maintenance and life cycle. So over the life that you're going to be having that particular product in your house, what is it going to cost you to maintain it and keep it in good condition? So that's really my part of the presentation. So Eve, I'm done and very open to questions of anybody.
It's quite a lot. When I got introduced to the window, I said, okay, this is a window. It's not a window. So there's a little more to it. During the presentation, Terry stressed a lot on, or mentioned a lot about customization, and this is what the product offers to the client, because being a homeowner myself, a 24 by 56 or 24 by 46 window might not cut it. A customer would want a custom size, and that is definitely available. We've seen all the videos with the hurricane rated, and so that of course provides added benefit and security to the end user. So we're open for questions. If you have any concerns, comments, we're happy to answer them. The product, we have product in store as we speak. We have windows, general size windows, and we're open to provide quotations for custom size windows. We have Winifred Vidal on staff, who has been with Domus with Dominica for some years now, and she has the experience working with the windows and working with the contractors. So we have that resource to support you as well. Feel free, questions, comments. Contractors who are here with us at the center.
They shy?
Maybe they're just stunned and happy with what they've seen. It is affordable, yes.
Yeah, I guess on the cost side, that's one thing that we had found over the years is that for the high impact windows, they were very, very expensive. And so that's why we wanted to develop an economical hurricane, which is not going to be hugely more expensive than a regular window. It is more expensive, but all you need to do is to have one storm, and it will pay for itself 10 times over. So, and provide security as well. So the economical hurricane one is something everyone can afford. And that's what we're the only one that has that particular window line.
Any other question? Okay.
All right. In terms of the security of the windows and doors, I noticed they said there is a lining. How does it have the opaqueness or the transparency, the clear terms after period? Does it get affected, or how long? What is the lifetime, the life of span of that window, so that you get the clarity without it getting opaque?
There you got that. You're mute. Maybe, I'm not sure.
Terry, you're muted.
No. The windows are lined.
We can't hear you, Terry. Terry, we can't hear.
So I'll ask the question. We're watching the presentation. Different between an ordinary matrix line. So if you have a missile,
Can you hear now?
All right.
Yes.
Yeah, we're hearing you now, Terry.
Okay.
Because it's a lining, how does it affect the opaqueness of the window, or after a period of time will it get opaque that you will not have that clear?
He's asking, how does the laminate affect the life of the window in terms of the clarity seen through the glass?
Not at all. I mean, it's not going to turn yellow or anything else. So it should last indefinitely, just like the window type. Now, if water can get into it, sometimes you'll have, on occasion, a unit that will delaminate. It doesn't get weaker or anything, but you, on occasion, kind of 1 in 100 or so, you might get one that is going to, basically the glass, it comes away from the glass. But the strength is there. It doesn't turn yellow. It doesn't really deteriorate over time at all.
In terms of production, what is the duration time from production for custom made? How quick? And we know period of construction varies. You might have for ordinary residential building, you have 4 to 6 months. If I am to customize windows for that building, how long would it take for it to get back?
He's asking what's the lead time for custom sizes. Right.
Well, we have been quoting 4 to 6 weeks delivered to Dominica from the time that the order is placed and the % deposit is made. Now, right now, we are experiencing trouble with our supply chain, and in fact, we had a customer, we were a few weeks late for a customer recently. So he asked for his money back, which we gave it to him. And 3 days later, he came back and put the check back into the account again. And he said that he checked with the suppliers in the US and also China. He couldn't get China, they wouldn't take his order at all. And the US was quoting 35 weeks. So there are a lot of disruptions. I don't know if any of you in construction now have noticed steel has got a lot more expensive. Also lumber is more expensive. And and also there's disruptions to shipping and everything else. So we're carrying a lot more inventory than millions of dollars more inventory. So we should be able to meet those dates. Well, right now the country is locked down. So we've got a very limited production. But in general, we should make the 4 to 6 weeks, and there may be slight delays depending on our supply chain.
In terms of warranty, I noticed 20 years warranty for the windows and the glass panels of 5. Who would provide the warranty? Is it the center or the manufacturer?
No, the manufacturer does, and that's why we have Winifred there, who's very familiar with that. If there are issues, then she will deal with it, and we will pay to have the stuff brought in. So the if it's a problem of ours, when we will pay to repair it. If it's beyond the warranty period, you can still order the parts and have someone install it.
In the distributor, the administration of the warranty claim would go through the center, but Domus would honor that.
Yeah.
Go to the, I guess the inspection.
Yes. Yes.
All right, I have to go to allow the others. I'll just ask one more time. What's the cost difference between, you have to be a product for the range, the custom built, and the standard side?
Annie, could you repeat that question first, please?
He's asking for a price variation between the standard size and custom size.
There's no difference. That basically the cost would be the same. If you bought a window, for instance, that was custom sized, that was half an inch smaller or bigger, you would notice maybe a 50 cents or $1 difference. Basically, there's no additional cost for customization. Now, if it's a different type of window, different glass, different size, whatever else, well, obviously there's going to be a difference in the cost, but we charge nothing extra for customization.
It would really just be on the size you're asking for. The pricing would be on the size, but if we have a standard window, which is like 48 by 48, and then you want 54 by 60, let's say, you're asking what's the difference between the 48 and the other side?
Obviously, standard we expect to get hit, standard size. Custom, because now you have freight appearance, obviously gonna be how you see what my custom, if I give my custom size, it will say that I will pay the same amount, even though the size of the window. For example, 48 by 48. If I custom a size or design, I was trying to find out what is the difference in terms of cost. But if you say it's the same,
let's say you talked about a 48 by 48. Let's assume you wanted a 47 by 47. If you give them an order for that size, then it's going to be a little less money than the 48 by 48. Because what we do is we look at the cost of manufacturing that window, how much glass, how much labor, so and based on the cost of producing that window. So whether it's a 48 by 48, well, it's going to have a certain amount of cost. A slightly smaller window is going to cost less to make. And so that's all we do. We just pass along the cost. For instance, a small window very often is going to be very expensive because it has a fixed amount of labor. It has all the hardware, the same components in it. And the only thing that's smaller is a little bit less glass and a little bit less PVC. Once you go into a larger window, the cost doesn't go up as much as one might think. It's only the extra cost of the glass and so on. So the best thing is just to get a quote. Winifred can get a quote to you very, very quickly, and you can then compare it to the prices that you can get from a do-it center by going with standard sizes.
Any other questions?
Okay, since the guys have asked it, in terms of width, say that it's PVC normally comes heavier than aluminum or some of the weight. So in terms of the mechanism, are we using the manufacturer, I guess, would have that, take that in consideration. That's not really some of the windows are familiar to the PVC because of the size is much more bigger. Then it adds weight to the mechanism. So what is that also a factor that's better in that product.
But from my knowledge of the product, the installation is key in terms of the size and the weight of the window. Terry's question is, because it's a UPVC window, it's heavier. How does the mechanism come into play in terms of supporting, being able to support the weight of the window, especially if you have a larger size window?
Well, the weight would vary. Once you go into impact, you've got 2 sheets of glass in there, and so that increases the weight quite considerably. Is he concerned about the structure not being able to hold? I'm not sure I understand. The concern about the weight.
Fred, you says he didn't understand your question. Your concern. Yeah.
Okay, this windows and doors, if it's a fix, it shouldn't be a problem. But the awning of the windows are open as we see. There are mechanisms in terms of hinges and all the mechanisms to get wider open. What happened with sometimes the added pressure or adding in terms of the gravity and pressure on this. So I don't know if in the manufacturing of Domus product, if that was taken in consideration.
Which we do. You're right. The hinges, there's going to be more pressure on hinges, locks, and so on with the laminate glass, with the hurricane windows. All of the mechanisms that we have, the hardware is all high-grade stainless steel. That's also sized for the heaviest units. Sometimes we can't go to a particular large size because of the weight, and we have to put a double unit in rather than a large single unit. So all of that Winifred is familiar with, and also our manufacturing, we do take that into account so that each of the units can be operated easily by, by a woman or a reasonable sized child. So you're right, that the extra weight is a consideration that has to be taken into account, and we do that.
Okay. So is there a question? Any other questions from the floor? Have questions online?
No. No, we don't have any questions online, Ivane.
Okay. In terms of technical specifications, how can we get access, especially as in design build personnel or companies? Because we'd like to, if we're using your product, we'd like to put the specifications in our designs so that the contractors during tender process or tender bid process, they will know what type of specifications to meet on.
Yeah, we'll provide technical support in that. If you are bidding, then you can pass along whatever information they want. In some cases, we can bury them with too much detail. So the best thing is just to pass along the contract, the bidding document, and so we can find out what you need, and then we've got all of that available. For instance, specifications on the glass, on the PVC, on the glue that holds the glass in, and so on and so forth. Also the test results, which tests it will stand up to, what the wind load is, et cetera, et cetera.
Terry, your response is speaking to somebody who got a bid that they're sending out, but he's speaking from a design point of view as an architect. Is there the specification that is readily available for the product? Doesn't matter on the size, just the product and the glass that's used in it. So from a design point of view, he has that information already.
Yeah, we can provide the specs. I've made reference to them in this presentation. For instance, the impact, that would be an ASTM spec. For instance, if he's looking at the glass, he may want to look at SHGC, which is the solar heat gain coefficient. He might like to look at the transmissibility. So whatever options he wants to look at, we can provide him with those. Also the U factors and so on for the glass. So, and if he needs drawings, we can provide CAD drawings as well as PDFs for the different types of units.
Okay. Good for you, Frank? Any other questions? No. Okay, well, we have no other questions from our audience here. Terry, if you would like to give some closing remarks.
Well, I wanted to thank Do It Center and all of you for attending and allowing us to speak to you. In my 15 years experience, I've found there's really seems to be a lack of understanding of what causes hurricane damage, and it bothers me when I drive around either Dominica after Maria and seeing all the roofs lifted and so on, and also in St. Martin where they were piling up hurricane shutters 50 feet high because most of them failed. So I think it's important that we have that dialogue as to how to protect people, and even the average citizen who may not be able to afford the highest quality products all the time. With the economical hurricane line, it's going to cost a little more money, but they may be able to get that back in terms of reduced insurance premiums. And very often you'll find that banks will provide the funds to borrow to upgrade windows and doors, knowing that doing so will improve their security for mortgages and so on. So I don't think in this day and age with the strongest of hurricanes, which are now starting earlier, they're forming earlier, they're stronger, and they're going to be more, with global warming, they're becoming much more prevalent. And so everybody I've spoken to says in the next 20 years, get used to a lot of Marias and Irmas. So I do hope people, and if anybody wants to talk to me directly about any of this, I certainly, Eve and Winifred can pass along to me, and I'd be happy to speak to anybody about it. So thank you very much to Do It Center and to all of you.
Thank you, Terry, and to our audience virtually and with us at Do It Center. I would like to say thank you for joining us today for our Domus Doors and Windows webinar series. We are pleased to partner with Domus, and we would like the general public to know and the contractors that we do have the hurricane and economical rated windows here in store. Please visit our store on Google Road to see the selection.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.